folks. Welcome on in. It's 1TS Daily right here at One True Sport. How's it going, everybody? I'm Zack Heydorn, one of your hosts. That's Ryan Droste from Top Rope Nation, the other. Pumped to be here. Lots to talk about. Ryan, how is your morning, my friend? How's life?
Well, it's pretty relaxing morning, Zach. You know, I had the thunderstorms overnight, which I don't mind too much. Helps me sleep a little bit. Feeling pretty refreshed. Got my coffee as usual here.
Yep.
Ready to preview Dynamite, I think. And there's a few news pieces out there that we can hit here with the listeners.
There definitely is some interesting stuff, and yeah, big night for AEW tonight. Obviously, guys, we're going to spend a lot of time in that arena because hey, it's tonight, and that's what we do. We talk current events, we talk news. We're live here every single Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, 11 Eastern, talking the news of the day, the news of the week with you. So don't miss it. Subscribe to One True Sport right here on YouTube. Make sure you don't miss any of our shows here, but also there's a ton of other great content that goes up with some of the biggest pro wrestling legends that there is in the game. You don't want to miss what drops on this channel. So hit subscribe if you're willing and able. Hit that like button. Helps us out with the YouTube algorithm and, you know, all that madness out there with that. But it helps. It really does help. So thank you in advance for that. Make sure you're heading over to OneTrueSport.com if you want to become a One True Sport member, and you should at least look into that. We've got tons of membership tiers there, three different ones, all with different perks, all at different price points, and that will get you in the door and to allow you to experience the full One True Sport ecosystem, if you will. There's also a lot of merch up there from our wrestling legends and One True Sport, and as of about 10 minutes ago, 1TS Daily merch, folks. Bam! Look at that jazz.
Beautiful.
Look at that hat right there. We got a shirt. Boy, we are moving up in the world, Ryan. We are moving up, my friend. But it's there for you at OneTrueSport.com. Get your hats, get your shirts. Let's show them off. Be awesome. But pretty cool stuff, guys. So
I just dropped the link here in the YouTube chat. You guys can check it out. Yeah, fresh off the press. I'm getting my order in today, Zach. That hat looks real nice.
Yeah. I started it before, and then I was like, "Oh man, we got to hit go on this thing. We got to hit go. I got to stop putting the order in." But I will be. So yeah, check it out, guys. OneTrueSport.com. You can pick up some of our merch, but you can also mostly check out and be fully ingrained in what we're doing at OneTrueSport.com. As for today, you guys, welcome onto the show. If you're joining us live on YouTube, hello. If you're listening on Twitter, hello. The live chat is open. We love going back and forth with you guys, hearing your opinions on what we're talking about. Drop them in there. Don't hold back. Super chats are open as well. It's one of the best ways for you guys to support us, support this show, and to support One True Sport as well. Drop us a super chat. Real easy way to do that. We'll make sure to get your question in and answered and discussed. Talk about your comment. We'll hit it for sure if it's in that super chat. We'll also obviously hit the live chat as well, but super chats are a priority for sure. Thank you in advance. Any little bit helps. So appreciate you guys for that. All right, so Ryan, let's get down to business. Tonight it's AEW Dynamite, but it's Blood and Guts. Blood and Guts is the name of the game. That is the selling point of the show tonight. We've got the Elite, the Young Bucks, Kazuchika Okada, Jack Perry, and Hangman Adam Page against the team of Swerve Strickland, Mark Briscoe, The Acclaimed, and Darby Allin. Ryan, Blood and Guts has become a staple of the AEW calendar year. And I think that's a pretty cool tradition, you know, overall. Just like cool to have your little gimmick match, cool to have your thing. I think they've done a nice job kind of branding this event. I just think they've totally missed the mark on tonight's match specifically. Like, there's no reason to think the match is going to be bad. Don't get me wrong. There's no, you can almost never like criticize AEW for that part of it. Like, the matches are going to deliver. I'm sure this one will too. But boy, to me, the storyline here is convoluted, forgotten, lost its way a long time ago. As a weak babyface team with guys that can't even really scratch the surface on a AEW Collision event. I just think they lost the thread here. And while I think the match is going to be good, and I'm certainly looking forward to kick back and watching it, I just think it's a really big missed opportunity to where they had a huge story going. Tony Khan attacked, Kenny Omega attacked, Tony Khan neck brace on NFL draft coverage, the Anarchy in the Arena match, and then Forbidden Door happened, and it all kind of just went away. But this Blood and Guts match is still here. Missed opportunity, if you ask me. Where are you at on this? And before you get into that, like, where are you at on like the concept of Blood and Guts as an AEW staple?
I like the concept of Blood and Guts. When they debuted it, I was super excited for it. The show that we met up at, in person for the first time, way back at Revolution 2020, it was in the post-show scrum that they revealed they were going to do this and bring back the War Games match. And then the pandemic happens. We had to wait over a year until we finally got it. I mean, this Blood and Guts is way closer to the original War Games than what WWE does using the War Games name. And if you're a fan of the old NWA WCW War Games matches, this is more authentic, I feel, than what WWE does. That being said, you're exactly right. I agree with you 100%. The build to this one has not been great. You look at Swerve Strickland and you're wondering, what kind of team is this guy putting together? Is he the most inept wrestling general manager of all time? I mean, he's certainly no Ryan Poles, Zach. I mean,
no,
this guy
God,
is...
no.
Chicago reference there.
Anybody,
No, but I mean, this guy, he is. I don't know what he's doing. I mean, the Acclaimed are down on their luck right now. They're the least hot they've been since they have come into the promotion, I believe. I mean, I've always been a big fan of theirs, but they're just not super compelling right now. We talked about it before, Mark Briscoe. We love the guy, but main event level, not really. I think Darby, he absolutely is. So you got Darby out there with Swerve, your world champion. So that's good. And the Elite is a star-studded team. Absolutely. But that storyline, as you mentioned, has lost so much steam since they started it. And, when they started, I thought it was good. They were getting the media attention they wanted right around the NFL draft. As you mentioned, I mean, they're talking about it on the Rich Eisen show. They're talking about the NFL Network, and it just kind of died out. And so there's just not a lot of heat behind the story at all. Probably reflected a little bit in the ticket sales. I was just checking. They have 4,200 tickets out. So it's actually more than they have been doing for Dynamites of late. So that is good. The arena is set up, according to WrestleTix, for 5,300 tonight. So they got to move about another 1,000 to fill up what they have set up the Bridgestone Arena for. But I mean, that is a massive, massive arena they're running. I mean, they could have 15,000 in that building.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you said it, it's going to be a really good match, I'm sure, and I'll enjoy it. It's just, of the four, I'm the least excited to watch it. Like, going in, it's like, oh, okay, Blood and Guts tonight, be a good match, but it's not like, oh man, I can't wait for 7:00 to get here to watch Dynamite. It's just kind of, it's just there. It's like, we know there's going to be a good wrestling match. I don't feel the emotional tug to tune in, but I will, of course, because I got to talk about it with you guys tomorrow morning. Yeah,
that's right. And yeah, it's just like, I think that the biggest thing that this is missing, outside of just like touch points throughout, is like some kind of stakes. Like, I think all you needed on this is just stakes of some kind to give it some direction. Like, whether it's like some kind of control over AEW, or whether it's, I don't know, the Elite get to, book Swerve, or they get to pick Swerve's next title opponent, or whatever. I'm spitballing here, but like, you've got this Team AEW versus the Elite storyline, and it's like, okay, like, for what? Like, what are we fighting about at this point? I think this really would benefit from, this is what's on the line. I thought Anarchy in the Arena would have benefited from that as well. It would have helped lead to this. So like, do you have any, like, usually, okay, AEW doesn't have a great track record of, delivering on these like big kind of hooks. They try them, whatever. Exploding barbed wire death match didn't end really great. Darby Allin comes out with a flamethrower. There's no one there to flamethrow. Like, there's just like little pieces where it's like, okay, got to be buttoned up on that. But this, like, they don't normally miss like these kind of storyline beats. Do you think like something changed in the end where they're just like, hey, we're gonna go down this road, and now we're not, and we're just gonna abandon this. We got to have Blood and Guts anyway. We sold tickets, and let's just do the match and get out of this. Like, because that's what it seems like to me. It's like it's been abandoned so much that it to me, I'm almost like, is this on purpose so that they can just pull the ripcord and just, move on?
Yeah, I think it's really one-sided, because I think on the Elite side, they have built it up well with, with Hangman coming back, and then him being in the Owen, him losing, him joining, kind of reluctantly joining the team, but kind of doing this new character where he's on edge and everything, having Jack Perry back in the mix, all of that. I mean, it's somewhat compelling, but the other side is just, there's nothing. It's just like Swerve piecing together this team without really much story whatsoever. Darby's return. Yeah, you're right. It does kind of feel like it's just, all right, it's time to do it, which is unfortunate, because that was always my problem with when WWE had the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view.
Yes.
It was like there was no stakes to it. It was just like, well, it's that time on the calendar. Got to have a Hell in a Cell match. And that's not how Hell in a Cell should be. Hell in a Cell should be a blow off to a blood feud. And I'm glad that they've, gotten away from that. Here, I mean, they kind of do Blood and Guts around the same time. They haven't always been in the same month. The first one was in May. They've done them in June, now July twice. But, that kind of like early summer period is when they always do it. So you're definitely right. It does have that feel. So I don't know what caused that. If there was some creative shifting, if there was something else, you would think, just looking at the lineup, that there was maybe something else planned for Team AEW, because
yes.
Looking at it on paper, you're like, I don't know. Do you think, I don't know if Ospreay's trajectory had any, because we know that Ospreay, pitched the match that he did with Swerve. That's come out now, that was his idea to basically settle down the calls to make him world champion, to show that he could put over Swerve and show the whole locker room that, even though he's got a lot of crowd heat right now, it's Swerve's time, and he was going to kind of like bow out. I don't know if that had any impact on how the build for this match was going. I don't know if he was going to be factored in at some point. Who knows? But I don't really have any answers. It's just kind of baffling a little bit.
Yeah. Let's go to chat for a second here. Andrew jumping in with a theory. Kenny wasn't ready, perhaps. Is that a possibility? They thought he'd be back and he isn't. I guess could be Andrew. I mean, I don't know that he's really been on the trajectory to be ready. It seemed, he just had surgery, I don't think, too long ago. So I don't know if that was ever seriously in the plans, but I mean, I suppose it's just as much of a possibility as anything that I can surmise. We got Matt listening from Australia, says, "What's up from Australia, dudes?" Nice. Hey man, what's going on?
Very
Thanks
nice.
so much for being here. That's pretty cool. All right, so as far as like tonight goes and the outcome here, what do you think AEW does? Like, what's important for them to get out of this match? Obviously, you want to have a good match. Obviously, you want to entertain and all that jazz. But who do you think wins? What team wins this thing? And are there any storyline beats coming out of it that you think will kind of nudge the rest of the summer forward for any of the guys in the match?
I think the Elite wins, and I think they put over Hangman strong in this match. Him just being kind of a crazy man. I'm sure there'll be a lot of blood and guts. And we know that Hangman excels in matches with blood. I mean, it's kind of hard to pick a winner, but I mean, just looking at the rosters, it seems like there's more to build off of there, just because when you look at the Team AEW side, outside of your world champion, I don't really, maybe Darby, but the rest of them, they're not going to factor into like top of the program feuds moving forward. Mm-hmm. And, you're still doing something with Hangman and him being back. He took the loss in the Owen, but I think here, maybe you just put him over strong in the finish of the match. The interactions with him and Swerve is probably the most compelling thing in this match, given their history and where they're probably going with them long term. So I think something dealing with those two, and I mean, maybe even Hangman getting one over on Swerve. You know, there's no title on the line here. Hangman's lost to Swerve twice in recent memory, so maybe Hangman gets, you know, some revenge here.
Yeah, man, you took the words out of my mouth. Yeah, I mean, I just don't think there's a way, unless you want to really put Swerve over really strong and have him beat everybody in the elite. Like, there's no way. There's no way you're going to see like Max Caster or Anthony Bowens pin Okada. Like, I'd argue you don't even want to see them pin the Young Bucks. Like, you know, I think, you know, Swerve is going to get some pins, or excuse me, not pins, but like just any sort of like significant offense against those guys. Like, you can't have Max Caster in there going toe to toe with Okada. It's just, I just think the optics of that are not strong. And so, yeah, I think you're totally right. I think this is a lot of this is about Hangman Page, and a lot of this is about Swerve Strickland. I think you want to build to that moment. Yeah.
Reacting to the chat there.
I can't let this
Thanks,
go.
Matt.
Epic NBA shirt, dude. Yeah. Like, you want them to have a moment. I think Swerve and Hangman. That's, I think, a big hook here. And then you put the elite over strong. Now, what does that mean for the elite to win this? That's the unfortunate part. Like, nothing really. So what happens? They win, and then everything is like back to normal again. That's where I think the story is missing a beat. But Hangman can get a lot out of this, like looking really good here. You know, they're going to need a challenger for a world champion coming out of All In, and they've only got 2 weeks to build that challenger before the All Out pay-per-view. And I think if they play their cards right, you know, Hangman can be that guy that can go in there and wrestle either Bryan Danielson or Swerve Strickland at that All Out show. Both of those matches, I think, can, you know, hold the pay-per-view and drive some buys on 2 weeks notice. And so, to me, that's a priority here. Like, get Hangman to a place where he's like a viable contender. Does that mean beating Swerve? Yeah, I think it could. And also, if he does that and he gets a W on Swerve and he does that while teaming with the elite, you know, there's a storyline development there too of him being more ingratiated with them again willingly. So that's how I see this playing out. Any chance that, you know, that the baby faces win this to kind of, okay, feud over, this whole thing over now, you know, and everything goes back to normal, but at least like we put not that it matters much, but is there any way, you know, do you think we see Swerve just go, hey, you know, we're going to win this, kind of like John Cena beating the Nexus at SummerSlam in whatever year that was?
No, I don't think so. I mean, honestly, the way I would book this probably is I would have most of the babyface team just get taken out. Again, just because all the fans watching this know the star power in this match is so one-sided. I'd have Darby take like some kind of crazy bump, you know, to get him out of the match. The other three guys would just be totally beaten down, and it'd basically be left with Swerve like fighting off everybody. And it would be, you know, one of those scenes like from a movie where the babyface is doing everything he can, and you know, he's trying to galvanize his team, and he's so heroic, and he's trying to fight it off, and he kicks out of a bunch of stuff, but he's like on his knees just fighting until the end, and eventually Hangman's the guy who takes him out. And it's like you optically you see your world champion lose, but like, look, he had to take on practically the whole team the last couple of minutes of the match, and he did as long as he can, but then you have Hangman get that pin on him. That's how I would book it.
Well played, man. Goodness gracious. I love it. I love that. No, that works. I think that works. And I think at least you get something out of this match if you do that. And I think that's what you're looking for at this point. It's been so poorly built that, all right, what can we get out of it? And I think in that scenario, get a little sympathy on Swerve, heat on the elite, Page gets, you know, a big win. I mean, that's three. You can check 3 boxes with that finish. So I think you're definitely on the right track there. All right. Also tonight on the show, we've got Chris Jericho against Minoru Suzuki for the FTW title. Big Bill and Brian Keith, the Learning Tree members, are barred from ringside. MJF is going to talk. Mariah May, Glamour Mariah May, is going to make her debut. And then, of course, I'm sure we're going to get some hopefully like some in-show build for the Blood and Guts match as well. Maybe some promos, some video packages. They're not promoting that outright, but Blood and Guts is going to play a big part of this show. And it's going to be a long, a very, very long match. So they don't have a ton else outside of that. Who do you think is on the short list to interfere in this Jericho Suzuki match tonight? Like, I look at that and I go, okay, Big Bill and Brian Keith banned. Learning Tree is getting another member tonight to come and help Chris Jericho. Anybody that stands out for you that could be that?
I have to think on that. Not off the top of my head. I don't have anybody in mind. I thought about it for a little bit.
Anybody, have they? They haven't really like done too much with that.
No, I can't think of anybody offhand that I would put in that group. I mean, honestly, I'm so low on the Learning Tree stuff that like I almost don't want anybody to get in that group. I think Big Bill's awesome. But I mean, Chris Jericho needs to take a break. He just needs to get off TV for a while, freshen up a little bit.
Yeah, no, he does. He does. I don't know. I kind of look at like maybe like Private Party, something like that. They've had a touch point with the Learning Tree. To me, I look at this and I just go, okay, like someone is going to like help them out and join this group. Because I just don't think Minoru Suzuki is going to win that title. He's not going to beat Chris Jericho. And, so be it. Glamour Mariah May. I'm excited for this. We've been very high on Mariah May on this show since her big heel turn. I thought, so far she's done a nice, like last week was kind of like the week where, okay, we're going to, needle Toni Storm a bit. We're going to dress up as her. We're going to come out to the ring, like looking exactly like her. I mean, like that played right into the story they've told there. And now it's time for her to like debut her own fresh, new personality character. That's what we're going to get here. And so I'm pumped to see what they do and what she does. I've been nothing but complimentary of her work. And I think she's like one of the rare instances in AEW where she got in at the ground floor, like not a ton of pomp and circumstance for her debut, but she works Rampage, she worked Collision, she's worked Dynamite, she's had, good segments with Toni Storm, she's had good matches, and she's like just organically got herself to a position where it makes sense for her to, now carry part of the women's division. And, I hope that she hits a home run with this, and there's no reason to think that she won't, Ryan.
No, yeah, I think she will too. I mean, yeah, you said it. We've been very high on her for months, actually, and I'm really curious to see the presentation on her. I was really looking forward to that last week, and then she did the Toni Storm bit. So I want to see what they put together just for the entrance theme. What that's going to be like. What's the ring gear going to look like? How's she going to portray herself? And I assume she's going to be wrestling. It just says debut. I mean, I suppose they could just trot her out to the ring and she could talk, but. Hopefully she actually wrestles a match. We'll see. They, as you said, they're not going to have a whole lot of time though, based on the Blood and Guts match. But yeah, I mean, we only got 2 matches outside of Blood and Guts announced: Jericho, Suzuki, Britt, and Shida. I mean, that's it. So they should have time to do something. But yeah, I mean, I think she can definitely be a top face in the women's division moving forward. I would 100% have her win the title at All In. So this is kind of the start of the march to that.
Yeah. Do you think, or when's a good time to bring Toni Storm back into the fold here? I mean, they still have 5 weeks until All In. I think 5 or 6.
Yeah,
weeks,
sounds
6
about right.
Dynamites maybe, including tonight's. So they still have a long way to go. With that. When do you think we see Toni Storm again? Is it tonight? Does she interrupt kind of like the Glamour appearance, or does Mariah May need another night to kind of solidify herself as this new character?
Yeah, I'd hold it off 1 week. Especially if Mariah's wrestling, I'd have her kind of get her night to have a full-on match, for the first time since this character pivot. And then next week I'd bring her back and have her interrupt a match and brutalize her, so to speak. I'd hold it off a little bit. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if they do it tonight, though. I could see it happening, especially like in that first hour of the show to give it a little bit of buzz until they get to Blood and Guts.
Yeah, I mean they could use something like that in the early part of the show for sure. At the same time, I just think like Blood and Guts takes up so much of like the talking points coming out, and that Tony Storm return, I think you want that to be like a really, really big deal. And I just don't think it can be with Blood and Guts on this show. So I'm with you. I'd hold for a week. I'd let Mariah, I mean, even a couple weeks, even like first of all, that sells that vicious attack that Mariah May put on her. But also, yeah, gives like the new glamour Mariah May some time to breathe a bit. And I think that's definitely important. And then, like you said, we've got Britt Baker against Sheeta. I see this as just a way to get Britt on TV in a match, get her a win. I'm fully expecting this thing to be pretty much like paint by numbers, maybe, a Mercedes Moné running of some kind. But to me, this is get Britt out there, get her in a match again, get her feet under her, give her a win, and move on.
Yeah. Yep.
We got a super chat from Matt here, a bit of an odd super chat, but hey, it's a joke. And we do read all super chats, provided that they are content that is not offensive in any way. Matt says here, why do cows wear bells? Because their horns don't work. But I'm ching. If only I had a drum set here, Matt, you'd be getting the drum sound effect. Thank you, sir.
Australian humor there. Nice.
Yes. Thank you, Matt. Appreciate it, dude. Glad you joined the show from all the way in Australia. Good stuff. If you want to contribute a super chat or joke, feel free. We will read it and make it a part of the show here, just like we did with Matt. All right. Let me run down the NXT results from last night, and then want to get into some news, and then we'll kind of ride off into the sunset and wrap up for today. Brooks Jensen beat Josh Briggs in a no disqualification match. Sean Spears helped to that end. Jensen has been on this kind of, I don't know, oddball. He doesn't know who he is. He's fired, but then he gets brought back, and just a bit of a weird story arc, but he gets a big win here. Eddie Thorpe defeated Alexis King. Ora Mensa defeated Ashante the Adonis. We had Trick Williams, former NXT champion, beat Cedric Alexander. Lash Legend and Jakara Jackson beat Sol Ruka and Carmen Petrovich. The Rascals beat the tag team champions, Axiom and Nathan Frazier, who partnered up with Javon Evans. And that was the show. You've been following this Brooks Jensen thing at all, Ryan? Like
off and on a little bit.
It's like part of me. I'm intrigued, right? It's like it's not a typical storyline for WWE. They're like outside the bounds of normal stuff. They got Brooks Jensen in other promotion and like some indie promotions. He's been kicked out of a TNA event, as Eddie says here in the chat. It's a good way to frame it. Loose cannon Brooks Jensen, loose cannon as in Brian Pillman. So there are some definite loose cannon Brian Pillman undertones here. Man, the problem is Brooks Jensen is not Brian Pillman. Brooks Jensen, to me, is still the goofy guy in that Cowboy NXT 2.0 tag team. And I just find this so hard to believe that like if you would have lined up 20 NXT talents to do this character, Jensen would have been like not even on that list for me. Like that's how outside the bounds of reality I think this is. So for effort, I mean, this is what NXT is now. They try weird stuff. Some of it hits, some of it doesn't, and they're okay with that because it's on little NXT, and it, I don't think it, matters all that much. But this to me is a miss just because Jensen is just not that guy. Rant over. Go ahead.
I mean, all I'm going to say to Eddie's point, loose cannon Brooke Jensen is, I mean, if they're actually doing a loose cannon gimmick, I'd rather have Brooke Jensen doing it than Brian Jr. That's for sure.
No, fair.
He's better at it than Brian Pillman Jr. would be. So, I mean,
how do they give the loose cannon gimmick to someone else with Brian Jr. on the roster. Man, that's
because even they know Brian Jr. can't pull it off. Let's be
yes,
honest.
they do.
Let's
They
be
do.
honest.
Oh man, yeah, no, for sure. So yeah, so that's NXT. Chuck is in our chat here. Says, does NXT seem to be getting a little more indie talent, kind of going back to its black and gold days with indie stars as the main talent sprinkled in with some homegrown? I mean, I'm an NXT viewer. I watch it every week. Not usually live, definitely not live, but I catch it. I mean, I would not classify that in that way, Chuck. Like, not right now. You know, when you look at like who's on that show at the top, it's it's Trick Williams. That's not like that's not an indie guy. Good talent, and somebody who I think is going to be a player, but he's not like an indie guy. Ethan Page is not really an indie guy anymore. Javon Evans is a homegrown talent. Sean Spears is there. Like, it's really like a kind of like a very much top heavy with homegrown stars. I think they want it that way. They want their guys and women to be at the top. Same thing with the women's division. Roxanne Perez, I guess, had her time on the indies. But everybody else is very much not. Now, they signed Julia. They signed Stephanie Vicker. Like, so those are two notable names from, other promotions that have some indie kind of street cred. But outside of that, Ryan, like, I don't, this is certainly not a signal like, oh, we're going to go back and, sign all this top indie talent now. I don't get that that's part of the strategy anymore.
No, I mean, that era of NXT will never be replicated. We all loved it. It was amazing, but it was such a different era in wrestling because what they were doing is they were essentially forming a super indie dream card every time out. They brought in all these people who were top stars who had big followings on the indies, or had been like TNA stars back in the day, like Samoa Joe. And they pretty much picked the indies dry, and AEW exists now. So like AEW essentially satisfied the craving that those types of fans had back about 10 years ago when NXT really started kicking into gear with the black and gold stuff. I mean, there's just not those names out there now because AEW exists, and AEW is kind of filling that need. So they definitely have to lean harder on the Performance Center crew, as you said. But I mean, you look at the heyday of NXT, and they're bringing in people who had already made their names. Like, I know they were training at the Performance Center, but these were people who did need a lot of training. Samoa Joe, Finn Balor, Shinsuke Nakamura. I mean, look, go down the list. These are people who are well-established talents, and it's just that kind of talent's just not out there anymore because of the existence of AEW.
Yeah. I mean, and Chuck, as you said, I'm not saying there's not indie talent on the roster. There is, but like Wes Lee, yes, he was on the indies, and yes, he's been around. But I mean, to me, he's like an NXT product now. Like, and I don't say that as a negative, but that's just what he is. Ethan Page, I mean, he's been in AEW forever. Was in TNA before that. Like, I don't look at him and go, oh man, that's the big time indie star that's like now in NXT. He's kind of like not a name guy, but just a national TV guy. Like, I don't, he's not working the indie shows. So yeah, that's how I kind of classify that. We'll see. I mean, I think, as we talked about yesterday on the show, AEW and WWE are going to be competing for talent, no matter where AEW lands. NXT is part of that. Like, our indie stars going to want to go and have a chance at the bright lights, with WWE and start at NXT, or are they going to want to go to AEW where they can make more of an immediate impact and not have to jump through the NXT hoop? Like, they're going to have to decide how they want to go with that. I think, and Ryan, let me know your thoughts here. They want their performance, WWE that is, wants their Performance Center guys to work out. They want that system to create talent. So while I think they'll certainly take, top indie talents that want to come in, women like Julia, women like Vicker, that, they're going to like try to get top talent from anywhere. But I don't think that they have a problem going, nope, you know what? We can take a good athlete with a good personality, drop them into our system, and make a star. They want that. And so I don't think they're running for that. I don't think they're pining for that, 2014, 2015 era of NXT right now either.
No, they want people to work their style. They want them to learn WWE style, which is far different than the wrestling styles you see in AEW or on the indies. And so for them, if they can train these people from scratch right out of college, with the athletes program and everything, that's more preferable to them. So I think, I think you're right. They want to lean on the people that look, they spent a fortune on the Performance Center.
Yeah.
And in the last couple of years, the hit rate has been way better. But if you look at the first 6 to 8 years of the Performance Center, there was almost nobody on the male side that came out of there and were hits on the main roster. Women's stars, absolutely. Big hit rate on that side. But on the men's side, it was the people that have been in NXT that came up were the ones that succeeded were already stars before they got to NXT. The homegrown on the men's side just was pretty much non-existent. But now, they got Braun Breaker up on the main roster, obviously, who they've done a good job with. So it's improving. But I think, they want to lean on their own pipeline. They want to recruit college athletes. They want to mold them into the types of wrestlers that they want on their programs.
Yeah, well said. We got another super chat from Matt here. Says more Joe Hendry on NXT. His Kurt and Drew songs. Every reason to think that Joe Hendry is going to be on NXT in some capacity, even if it's just his face that appears. I think that that's a possibility. We also have another joke from Ryan here. How does the ocean say hi? It waves. Thank you, Matt. Appreciate you, dude. Make sure to come back tomorrow. Bring lots of jokes. We'll read them on the air. All right, last bit of news here. Wrestle Purists, Ryan, is reporting this morning that CM Punk is reportedly looking to restructure his WWE deal. And in a good way, if you're Punk, and I guess if you're WWE, at least in Punk's eyes, if they want him, Punk is looking for something more permanent. The report indicates that the current deal that he's on is for 3 years. And he wants to get that restructured from a money and year standpoint. The report indicates that Punk's stance is that, hey, if all goes well with the company, he doesn't want to leave and he wants to be at WWE forever. He wants it to work out. He wants to get paid, of course. And then when it's time to slow down, he wants to slow down and help, foster in the next batch of talent in NXT. So, I can't believe I just read a report like that with CM Punk, WWE, and forever in the same sentence. What do you make of this?
Do you think there's any ulterior motive here to lock up a long contract so that if anything happens backstage, it's very expensive for them to get out of that?
Sure I do.
Let's be real.
It's CM Punk. You can't take that off the table, right?
Yeah.
So yes and no. I think that I don't know CM Punk, obviously. I hope he's not walking around backstage going, oh man, you know what? I hate this place, but boy, I really want to make sure that my ducks are in a row for the next 10 years.
No.
I don't, but you know what though? If there's somebody in the world that is walking around a work environment like that, it's CM Punk. So no, but yes.
I like what Chuck said in the chat. He needs a probationary period. If you look at the last few years, I think there's something to that. It depends what kind of money we're talking about here. I don't know if I should say this on air. I heard from somebody some rumblings that Punk was a little unhappy on some of these new contracts that were going out in the last few months, that they were getting paid more than him. And then he wants to get paid more because he saw
Drew and who we talking
Drew specifically.
Yeah.
So maybe there's something to that too, that he thinks he needs more money now because he sees some of the expensive contracts going out. He doesn't really have, he's a huge star, don't get me wrong. He doesn't have the same kind of leverage though as some of these other stars, to the same point of what we talked about yesterday with the AEW TV deal. We were talking about competition and everything and how it's good for the industry and competition over contracts. And we talked about, even though AEW is not WWE's level, they can offer expensive deals, and that drives up the price. And so wrestlers get paid, and we all want wrestlers to get paid. Nobody believes CM Punk's going back to AEW.
Right.
So he doesn't have that same kind of leverage that a Drew McIntyre would, where we could believe Drew McIntyre would go there, or Kevin Owens later this year, who potentially is friends with a lot of those guys. He could jump over there. You know, he doesn't really have anything left to accomplish in WWE. So Punk doesn't have that leverage. He has a leverage that he's a big star and he draws well. And, you know, and he could probably point to metrics in his contract negotiations with his agent and everything. But it's, I mean, I understand probably there's some motivations for wanting a long-term deal with this company. And the reporting's been out there that he wants to have a coach role long-term and be involved in NXT. So that part doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I think this makes total sense for Punk to want a longer term deal right now. I mean, I think like from an in-ring perspective, you got to wonder, you know, how much does he have left? Like, how much does he have? We talked about this on our Brash Ring Media show last night. Like, you know, he's back, and if I'm Paul Levesque, I'm like, okay, we're going. You know, you're wrestling all the big matches and you're doing it right now. So we're going to do Drew. We're going to do Seth. We're going to do Roman at some point. We're going to do Cody at some point. We're going to put you in there against Logan Paul on a Saudi show at some point. Like, we're going to get all these matches done because you could get injured again and then not be able to deliver. I think he has value to WWE as a coach long term. I mean, I think he, you know, he's one of those guys that's left that can, that's a bit old school. He's seen, you know, a lot. I think he can offer a lot, like from that perspective too, for talent. So I think it makes sense for him as long as he behaves himself.
And on the flip side, there's reporting out, or actually it wasn't really reporting. Tony Khan said it on Rich Eisen that he thinks Bryan Danielson's going to be there for the rest of his career. Brian's contract coming up with AEW. He signed a 3-year deal, I believe, back in 2021. TK is very confident Brian wants to stick around there long term. So you got two of the, you know, the bigger stars in wrestling of the last 10 to 15 years on opposite ends of the spectrum here, and looking to maybe lock up lifetime contracts.
I mean, and both I think have value to their companies. I mean, you know, I mean, Danielson, I think WWE would take him back in a heartbeat too. It's not that they don't want him. I think they would definitely want him, but you know, he seems pretty in a good spot in AEW too. That'd be a big loss for AEW if they lost him. Just for him to go back to WWE and be a coach, it's like, okay, ouch.
Yeah, no, I mean, he's had a lot of, I know, creative input on Collision, you know, since Punk left, and Punk was basically booking that show before he left. And so, I'm not just from great mentor, one of the greatest wrestlers of all time, star power, which I feel they haven't fully capitalized on yet, but we're getting there with All In, finally putting him in the title picture. But I mean, mentor, booker, wrestler, that's a guy you'd want to keep around. You would hope forever if you're AEW, if you have the ability to keep one of the greatest of all time, you got to keep him there.
Absolutely. No question. We'll follow that story, guys, and we'll wrap up there. Thanks so much for joining us, everybody. Thanks to Maddie for the super chats today. Thanks to everybody who joined in our chat. We'll be back tomorrow, 11 Eastern. We'll recap Dynamite, talk to the news of the day, as we always do right here at 1TS Daily. Make sure, if you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel, like this video. It helps us out big time. Check out our new merch at OneTrueSport.com. We've got hats, we've got shirts, we've got lots of cool stuff. You can support the show that way, support One True Sport that way, and then just honestly, like, just get some really cool merch at the same time. There's other really great stuff up there as well. I mean, obviously ours is like high level, top notch, but there is other really good stuff.
Start there and then filter your way down.
Yeah, right. And filter down. You can also check out all the membership tiers at OneTrueSport.com as well. There's 3 of them, lots of great perks, and head there now, OneTrueSport.com. You can check out more of me at Brash Ring Media. We had our flagship show last night. Talked a lot about CM Punk, future opponents, what it means for WWE that he's back. We also talked and broke down Rhea Ripley and her storyline with Dom. Was it a hit? Was it a miss? from this week's Monday Night Raw. You can check that out at Brass Ring Media. We have a YouTube channel. We'll be live today at 3 Eastern with the show, and then we'll be live tomorrow as well. So more there. Just find us on YouTube at Brass Ring Media. Ryan, what's the Top Rope Nation crew got going on right now?
We will be live tomorrow night. Thursday nights is the flagship show for Top Rope Nation. You can tune in live on YouTube, subscribe to our channel, get those bell notifications on so you see when we go live. We'll also have it out on the podcast feeds immediately after. So yeah, that'll be tomorrow night, every Thursday night here on YouTube. Search Top Rope Nation.
There we go. Guys, thanks so much. Tomorrow, same time, same place, right here, 11 Eastern, 1 TS Daily. For Ryan, I'm Zach. We'll talk to you guys real soon. See ya.
See ya.